Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of A RuneScape Discussion. Today I am not alone, and I am joined by Captain Lime.
Hello, I'm here today. Limey as ever.
Yes, slimy as ever, he is a citrus.
Yep,
So,
that's true.
today we are going to be kind of debating-ish between which quest we think was, I guess, better?
I mean, it's gonna end up being like more of two debates.
Yeah, this is true.
Uh,
But it's basically on the two most polarizing quests of 2016, which were Children of Ma and Endgame.
Before we go any further, I like children. I liked Endgame, and Crondis liked Children of Ma.
Yes.
And it's the other way around. I did not like Children of Ma, and Crondis did not like Endgame. So we've got two different viewpoints here.
So, do you think Endgame or Children of Ma is the worst in the
Wait.
in the Sliske series?
Oh yeah, I thought you meant like worst quest ever, and I was like,
No.
nope, that is definitely while Gothic sleeps.
No, just in the series.
No, actually,
So what would you say the worst is?
Dishonored Among Thieves. Actually,
It's down there for me. I think I have Endgame and Kindred Spirits tied for last.
I kind of liked Kindred Spirits. I kind of like a little, but Dishonored Among Thieves, it just felt forced.
Yeah, it was forced, but I just think they didn't do anything in Kindred Spirits that was actually worth the time of doing the quest. So that's why it's down there for me.
Fair.
Alright, but to get the debate going just beforehand, we're gonna start by discussing the lead up to what went down before Children of Ma happened. So we start out the 2016 year with Nomad's Elegy. And the quest didn't really focus that much on Sliske. He didn't really appear until the very end, where he would come and take away Nomad's body, whether you killed him or not.
It was something that they like kept in mind during the entire quest. Like they'd mention like, oh, there's this sick competition going on, and then they'd bring it together with that last moment in the quest. But
Right,
it
and I mean,
was
we knew this was the first quest in the four-part Nomad or Sliske thing, so we
the
knew.
year of Sliske.
Yeah, we knew Sliske was going to be some kind of relevant in it, but it wasn't until like the last couple minutes.
I mean, that's not entirely true for Children of Ma, but yeah, it like Children of Ma is in the same boat in that way.
Right. So then we had actually was the Easter event first before
Really?
Kindred
Did that?
Spirits.
Yeah, that's right. It came out before Kindred Spirits, and it was great.
It
I liked it.
it was good. It was very good. It had the best white chocolate ever.
It did. That was a great pun. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that.
I'm actually ashamed to say I didn't get it until he actually
Oh
said
my god.
white chocolate.
Uh, also, it's the best use of the Empyrean Citadel ever.
Yeah, it
It
is.
should remain. It should remain a chocolate factory, to be honest.
And it had the best puzzle because so many
It
people were
did.
raging at it.
Yeah, that's up there with Morning's End Part Two and Elemental Workshop Three. Hey,
But
say what you will about RuneScape, it will teach you how to do a sliding puzzle.
that is true. Start you out early. Um, but the event in itself didn't really have much of a impact on the series. It just kind of was like, hey, Sliske's kind of doing work with whites, and that kind of led into Kindred Spirits, but it wasn't that big of a deal.
It was mostly a gag.
Yeah,
Um, it's a holiday event, so what more could you ask from it?
yeah, that's basically it. So then we move on into Kindred Spirits, which was a thing. It
Yeah,
existed.
There are a ton of reasons that we have for why it did not do as well as it should
Mainly that it
have.
was rushed to hell and back. Felt like
Well,
it
not
was.
necessarily rushed, but like it got turned on its head way late in the game.
Yeah, it's also
Um,
true.
it would have panned out before it got turned on its head. Um, it would have been a lot more comedic. But I can kind of dig the way that it went. Like, oh, we're supposed to be playing along with Sliske's game, and then plot twist, we go here and we do this now. But it was a really inefficient way to set up the Barrows betrayal thing.
Right. And it also just introduced Linza as an antagonist for really no reason. Like,
Yep,
the whole plot point around her, I've gone into detail with that before, but it didn't make much sense.
that's fair.
Yeah.
I have no argument with that.
uh,
I hope this doesn't happen with the actual Children of Ma and Endgame debate.
no, I doubt it will. I
All
know some
right.
of your points from what you said before, so I'm going to assume we aren't going to agree on everything.
Yes, we've had many discussions about this.
Alright, so you
Um,
want to start Children of Ma?
yeah, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready.
Alright, opening opening statement, start.
I didn't like Children of Ma because it didn't really feel like a quest. We didn't personally do a lot of stuff ourselves. Like it felt thing while watching a cutscene about the Majrat, and they could have done all these reveals like, um, this is how Zamorak killed Zeros, which we basically knew already. Um, this is what's happening on Freniske, and then Zeros does all the work. And really, the only part that we get into that's an actual quest for us, that isn't just running to Sentistan and back, or like running through Freniske to get to another cutscene, Ma. And I felt like that was kind of cheap because, it's a quest. We're supposed to be doing things. We're the protagonists. This is a video game, not a movie. Um, and be running from point A to point B to watch another cutscene, or from point A to point B and not really learn anything new. Like it that much. Well, I didn't like it all at all because of that reason.
Alright, well,
Like I
I'm gonna actually take
oh,
the opposite argument of that. So I actually enjoyed it for the fact that we didn't do much. We go on so many quests where we're basically the only ones that have any half of a brain and are doing anything, that it was a nice, like, refreshing sit back to actually see people do things by themselves. So I don't mind a quest where I sit and I watch them, kind of debate out their struggles by themselves.
well, I
I
don't necessarily. Oh, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
I don't necessarily think that's true. There's a lot of quests where you know where we're the idiot. Like we're not the only person coming up with these plans. Like we're following the plans of someone else, or we're coming up with the plans ourselves. Obviously, I could point to While Gothic Sleeps, but do no evil. That's another great quest where we're not the brains behind the situation.
You're right, but we're
I
still having to solve most of the issues in Do No Evil. In
Yes,
Children of Ma, they were basically solving all of their issues themselves. So you got to actually
but
sit
then
back and see them kind of go through the debate and not have to be the one that constantly interferes. And I thought that was a pretty cool, just like, it was different. And I
but
didn't
then
mind it.
what's our purpose for being there then? Which is it felt like all this could have just gone on in the background. And in Children of Ma, there was a lot of stuff that did just go on in the background, like the Saradomin deal, the Armadillo deal. That happened later in Endgame.
Alright, I'll go ahead and say this. I thought that is a fault on Endgame. I do not blame that as a fault on Children of Ma. What the problem was they set up the Demon Pact in Children of Ma, and I thought that was good as a plot point between Zamorak and Zeros. The issue came with Endgame when they just completely threw it out the window and saying, actually, Zeros is just making deals with everyone behind everyone's back.
I thought that was kind of implied with Children of Ma.
I never
Like
found
it
that to be
does,
implied.
like it doesn't seem like Zeros' style to put all his eggs in one basket with Zamorak on every horse. As I come up with metaphors out of thin air.
You say that, but Zeros was dying. He was losing his power in the same way that Zamorak and the Majrat were. So I could
I
definitely
feel
see. I could definitely see
that's
him
kind of an
saying, "Here,
exaggeration.
here, I'll put my eggs in a single basket for a while," in the sense that it'll keep him alive for the moment, and that was a good reason for him to actually do the pact with Zamorak.
But like it just doesn't seem the Zeros thing to do. You know he will say anything
He will. He'll say and do
that he
anything to
wants.
make himself more advanced in the situation. Which I feel if
Yes.
he's losing power, of course he's going to want to try to get everyone into doing the ritual.
Well, I mean, you know me that I am suspicious of everything that Zero says. So I do not trust him. Um, I think he might have overstated how much he was losing power because, God versus Majrat.
he may have overstated it some, but I do believe he was losing power, and I think he wants as much as he can possibly get for the moment if he really is trying to go for to be an elder
That's
god.
true.
So I don't think he wants to lose any, which was probably the biggest reason. So like I said, I thought that was a good reason for him to be like, okay, hey, I'll put my eggs in your basket right now if it means I don't have to lose my power. And here's what you get out of it.
Know how that excludes him from also hedging his bets on Ceradomin and Armadil and everyone else in the
It's
race.
because the Zamorak one was the big one that we actually got to see. It would have been less of an impact if in Endgame, Zamorak was the one that, 97% of people got in the ending, instead of Armadil just randomly. I think that's what caused me to kind of trip for a loop on that, was that the one we actually did the quest to make happen was only seen by like 2% of people.
Hmm. I guess that's true because Zamorak he did lose a lot in this competition, which make yeah.
So yeah, and then along with that, on the side, you got to see, another return of Siren. And it's always good to see her and Samurus have some interaction. Because they have a unique style between each other, and I like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the contrarian again, and say that I didn't like that. I felt like it detracted from the focus of the quest. The quest, as it was marketed, was Zeros and Zamorak, and just them, and maybe the Majrat, maybe that.
Well, you say that, and are you just taking that from like that original poster where we saw like Zerus and Zemrak like about to fight each other or
No,
whatever?
I meant like all the discussion that was leading up to it. There was no mention of Saren or Ma or any of those things.
Well, right, but the quest is called Children of Ma, and that is a pretty big
Well, yeah,
branch when you're
but
wanting to say it, which would include both Siren and Zeros and the Majrat and Zamrak, and you want to get
right,
into it farther stuff.
the quest was okay. This is another point that I didn't like the quest about. It just felt too disjointed. Like it was three separate events that were only barely tied together by us running from one place to another. Like we had that original ritual where everyone shows up, all the Majrat, they all stand in a circle, they all start talking. We go to Sentista and we get the memory. We come back and then they say, okay, this doesn't prove anything. And then we go to scene 2 in Frenesque. Or after some discussion, we go to scene 2 in Frenesque, and suddenly it's Zamorak and Zeros, and there's a bit of discussion there. And we don't really do anything after we go to Frenesque through all the obstacles. In 3, Zeros and Zamorak, they go with the Majra, they go off and do something else. Saren shows up, and then we take care of Ma. And I felt like that last scene was the entire reason we did the quest. And all of that before was extraneous, even though that stuff before was the stuff that I was interested in. All that stuff before, not what I ended up doing.
Okay. Well, see, my thing was like, so I'll just take it by scene like you did. So for the first scene where you're at the ritual site on Gielinor, I felt like that was a great payoff for Koshi's troubles. I felt like that mini quest
That's true.
didn't have a good payoff when he appeared in Missing Presumed Death, because that's the
I'll
only
agree
time
with
he's
that.
appeared in a quest after that. And
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
so it was a good payoff for the fact that he yelled at both Inakra and Axanakos, and he was like, "I'm not joining either of you. Screw off."
Yes.
So I
So
felt that scene was great. Running to Sentenced and getting the memories and then coming back was it wasn't the best. It felt like an errand.
tedious.
Yeah. But I did like the cutscene that we did finally get to see in the flashback.
But we
I,
did know that information already.
we did know the information, but it was good to see like the flashback. You have Karshai walking around and interacting with people. I felt like that was nice and fleshed out. I think they did a good job with that. And they also made a
But
very brief hint to
yeah.
Angel of Death, which I didn't even catch for the longest time. And then, so we go to Freniske, and you have Siren who's on the side who knows she's losing power, but at the same time, she's still trapped in that mindset that she has always been, which is, Ma is our mother, why am I gonna hurt her? She's the very antagonistic viewpoint from Zeros. And I
Okay.
felt like that made a good dynamic between the two of I'm losing power, but I also don't want to do anything about it. And when you go through the Moss scene, and you do have to, Zeros ends up basically brain deathing her, and Siren has to
Right.
be the one to finally, put the final blow to her to actually kill her. I felt like that was a good payoff for Siren's less than ideal situation. I felt like it was all.
And
I think it was all tied together pretty well.
I thought it. Well, you see, I just can't get past the part that you've got you've got the ritual scene, and then you've got the Freniske scene, and then you've got, and they just didn't fit together well. Like it felt like an errand to go from one place to one quest designated area to the next, and all we got to see in most of those areas was a cutscene instead of doing an activity like fighting a boss, maybe doing a puzzle, something like that.
The only errandish
Um,
bit that I do agree with that bit is actually trying to get to the ritual site on Freniske. I felt like that was a bit extraneous because the lava surfing was just broken as hell. I'm not going to defend that. And then running through the Muspa area was just it was skippable. I think.
yeah, it was a Slayer insert, but I also meant like the ritual site. We didn't do a lot there, and like our main purpose in that part of the quest was come back, bring memories that we end up not really needing. And Freniske, all we do there is go to a place and then watch a cutscene. And finally, we get to the quest in part three, but it's a very small bit of quest and not the quest that I signed up for.
Like I said, I was fine actually going there and seeing them kind of take care of their problems by themselves and not have to be constantly relying on us. It felt like I was playing through like a kind of like a tale.
Say again?
I said it felt like I was kind of playing through like a tale, like a Fremnic Saga kind of thing. I was watching them, you know, do their figure out their issues without constantly being relying on the player.
Right. But I still feel like we should have done something. Like a quest isn't just about lore; it's also about gameplay dynamic. Like we're playing a game. I felt like I wasn't playing a game. I was just watching something, and I was going from place to place, watching one scene and then another scene and then another scene, and there wasn't a lot of very interesting gameplay there.
I guess I just don't think that you need to have dynamic gameplay at all times. I think that's more the differing viewpoint here, is that I'm okay sitting back and watching a quest, which is basically an extended cutscene for an extended period of time.
I wouldn't say at all periods of time. I just meant that this was a very extended period of time where we're just walking from place to place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, I think that's a lot of rambling on
Yes. A
Children of
lot of
Ma.
very incoherent rambling. Thank you.
Alright, so let's move on to the final quest of 2016, which was Sliske's Endgame.
Endgame.
Oh
And
boy.
now I'm going to seem like a hypocrite because this was a very extended period of time where we were just walking.
You want to start on it?
Actually, you go ahead.
Alright, I'll go. So, this quest I feel had. I'm going to break it into three parts, like we did for Children of Ma. So, you had the opening bit where you were talking to all the gods. I felt like that was well done in dialogue sense, but I had issues when it came down to the way that the dialogue was handled, because I'm the type of person that just wants to like read through all the dialogue options. And when you click the very first one and Saradomin freaks out at you and you can't read anything else, that pissed me off. Because all of a sudden he no longer trusts you. Just because you made a single dialogue error. And then that like changes everything for the rest of the quest. And it was the same thing with Zamorak and Armadillo, where you would say one thing and the dialogue would be completely different and you couldn't go back and change it. I've given that criticism to Raven, and I know he has gotten it from other people as well, and that they're taking that into consideration. But that was not a. It wasn't a good choice, honestly. We get to the heart, and we have to fight Nomad for a third time for no reason other than Sliske saying,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just going to give you a god point because why not? That felt completely useless. And then that goes completely against why he was even on the scoreboard to begin with, because he didn't even participate. And then you get into the unholy abomination that is the maze. And that was awful. That was 2.5 hours of my life just running and running and running and running and running. And the dialogue in the rooms in between was fine. I thought it was some good interactions, but it was random. So you had no clue what you were going to get. You could completely miss multiple amount, as I did. So you didn't even get to see all of it. And then at the very end, you have a 97% chance of receiving Armadillo as your god at the end. So all of a sudden now you have Xeris making the pact with Armadillo, like we were discussing earlier, but it has no payoff from Children of Ma. Only to have, who is it, Karabat come in and just destroy the stone. Like, thanks for the payoff. We knew the stone was going to get destroyed, but it felt completely unexplained. The best part of this quest, I will say, was at the very end with Jas. She had some good dialogue, and she set up really well for the big quest later this year. But past that, I could not get past how horribly lazy this quest felt. Oh, and I didn't even mention the combat. The combat was awful. The first wave, it was fairly simple. It was just white waves, and then you get to the second wave, and it's Linza and Gregorovic and Nomad. So now we're fighting Nomad for a fourth time, and the three of them together is just complete and utter ass rape. dropped easily 10, 15 mil in that fight, because if you had a single bit of lag, you were done. You just couldn't handle it. And then once you finally do it, you get onto the third wave, where they're going to screw with the walk mechanic on a point-and-click game. Sorry, that's not a good idea. Okay, I think I've rambled enough.
All right. I was just gonna let you go until you stopped. So
Yeah.
now that you've stopped, I'm gonna start with the maze because I actually didn't mind the maze that much. I felt like um, you could just like run the maze, but as soon as you realize that it'll just save so much of your time, that was when it started becoming fun because suddenly I was no longer getting frustrated. I felt like I was actually exploring the place. And between you and me in all of these things is that I don't mind not seeing some stuff while you want to be able, like, you are okay with seeing stuff even though you're not really useful there. And I think that's the main difference between the two of us, which is why you like Children of Mon, I like Endgame more. Because I'm okay with only reading about what happened afterwards.
See, I felt the maze would be more explorable if it wasn't the same like 5 room sets repeated over and over and over with
Yes.
a single obstacle thing, which was just to prevent you from clicking and running all the way through. That felt
Although I
pretty
will
lazy.
say that all of those rooms being so samey did help make it like you can't just wing it. Like you have to have a plan when you go into the maze.
Well, here's the
Otherwise,
thing,
you're
the maze is completely runnable, and I'll agree with you there, but it takes you a while to realize where you're going, assuming you're not a horrible quest pleb and using a quest guide.
right. Like you have to make time to make your own map, or there's a certain time that you need to wait until you say, "Yeah, map of this place."
Yeah. I mean, running in a straight line, honestly, is your best bet. Just trying to memorize which way you've gone and which way you've not. But it takes you a while to realize that you actually have no direction, and you can't go all the way through it, and that you have to stop at these random rooms at random corners of the map to do the puzzle so that it unlocks a door so that you can keep going a different direction. It had no real guidance to it. Not that I think it needed to be guided, but it had no directionality, if you know what I mean.
Wasn't there like a directions box at the very beginning?
Uh, at the very beginning it said, what was it, scroll out your map or something?
Like how it worked.
Yeah,
That could have been clearer.
yeah, it wasn't very well explained. All it said was like, if you see a big like opening, like room, you can go in there and it stops your time. But the time in the maze was really non-consequential because again, 97% chances you're going to run into Armadillo at the end.
Right. So, with that being said, with the maze, I will continue on to say combat sucked. Like it was Nomad. I don't know why we just kept using Nomad again and again and again. I was kind of okay with the payoff of the barrows here because it felt like to use against Sliske. Like we got to pull out the rug out from under him this time. But throwing in Gregorovic, throwing in Linza, throwing in Nomad, and then throwing in some more Nomad and more Nomad, more Nomad. That I felt like that was too much Nomad. Like just too much everything.
Yeah,
Like
it
it felt
really
like
had zero payoff from Nomad's elegy, for Nomad being there, other than he's there.
Bay. It was Michael Bay.
It was Michael
That's
Bay.
what it was.
I
That's what
didn't
it
see any
was.
explosions.
Didn't you see all the Nomad everywhere? God talking. Like I said, I was okay with not being able to see everything, stuff that I would be able to read about after the fact. Just about making choices.
See,
You,
I like seeing everything though. I like being able to spend my time reading through dialogue and seeing the cutscenes and stuff like that. Like, it's not as experiential when you're just sitting there hoping you get something, and then if you don't getting it, having to read it later. That's why I feel like having the what was it, the recommended quests in the earlier parts of the Sixth Age was a poor idea, because you're having dialogue
yeah.
that isn't even given to you because you don't have these quests done. Which, luckily at the time I had it all done because I've been playing for so long. But as a new
Well, I
player,
mean,
that would have been frustrating.
that's mostly there for like high level players who that kind of stuff who don't want to sit through and read all this stuff. I felt like that is the majority of the reason those recommended quests are there, so they don't have to like trawl through 12 elf quests, making sure they're only doing elf quests, that they don't do any more work in order to get to Prifddinas, and then proceed to Slay.
I mean, I don't, I don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, that was it was a negative ramification of having the recommended quests. Was that you had these dialogue options that just weren't available to you because you didn't have quests done already. Not that that was a specific reason that it was bad, just that it was an issue that it did cause.
I'll agree on that. Like, it's no, I don't agree on that. I'm gonna complain about that now. I feel like that's just the nature of the beast. So so far down so many quest trees that when you get a quest, I buy into this. When you get a quest that's very important that you want everyone to see because it's that game changing. It's hard to lock it behind while Gothic Sleeps, which has 270 quest points of requirements right there. Like a year doing quests in order to get into.
No,
And
I
not
mean,
to mention,
I completely understand why they did it. I was never in agreement with it, but I do know why. They started it with the World Wakes because they wanted to be able to move content past, you know, Ritual of the Majorat and not have it have, like, 500 hours of gameplay locked behind. I'm just saying it was a bad issue that was is was a result of it essentially.
but that's just, you can't really change that. I feel like the reward for that action was better than what we lost for it. More people were able to do this quest, which meant that we were able to get
No, I
more
mean, you
quests.
were right when you said it's the nature of the beast. I just hate the beast. That's just what it boils down to.
Oh, you can do that all you like. Doesn't care. Let's see, where else was I? I got lost there for a second.
I think you ended on combat.
We did combat. I did the god. I was talking about gods, which is where I was.
Okay.
I'm okay with like not being able to read everything because I feel like that's good for discussion. If not everyone has the exact same experience when they're going into the quest, it's all down to choices and stuff like that. You got to see, take a Death of Chivalry for example. You got to see many different sides of Saradomin depending on what you got to do. Like what you interacted with him as. If you treat him like an ass, he'd be an ass right back to you. If you treat him with dignity, he'd treat you with dignity. And stuff like that. You can't get every dialogue option when they're trying to push a lot of, here's a lot of choice.
Well,
Here
see,
is
I would completely agree with that if the fact that that's not how NPCs have worked in the past. Were we giving a warning before we started the dialogue saying, hey, this character will react to what the options that you pick? That would have been fine, and I would have been perfectly okay with that because I would have known, hey, let's not say, I'm going to betray you if it means my next dialogue option is, what's your plan? And he's going to flip out at me. That's just not how NPCs usually react to your dialogue options because you can usually say, hey, I'll help you out, and then the very next time, shut up, Meg. That's not
Yeah,
how characters typically react to you just saying random stuff to them. I feel like if they were going to change that dialogue system, it should have been more uh, warning as to that was
yeah,
going to happen.
I can kind of see that. Usually, I don't like. I'm a pretty goody two shoes kind of player. The NPCs, and then I'll just play along and try and get through the quest, try and experience the quest naturally. Not try and force my way through every single line of dialogue, because we need that lore and we need that hit. But I just want to go through the quest naturally, and that's why I was more okay with this part of the quest.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
that's how you play, I completely get it. It's just the fact that that's not how I tend to go through things. I just like seeing all the dialogue. And like I said, that's just not how NPCs tend to react. So it took me by
that's
surprise, and when it happens on, your first dialogue option and the rest of it is now just completely locked, well, that kind of screws you over.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. Because it was like the first option for him was, asking him what his plans is, and he tells you, and he's like, "Are you going to help me?" And you have, "I'm going to help you," or "I'm going to betray you." And then you can say, "I can help," but if you can go back and say, "I'm going to betray," but if you say, "I'm going to betray," the rest of the dialogue after it is just completely locked out for you. He won't say
Okay, that
anything.
sucks.
Yeah, he won't say anything to you after that. That is not get away from me.
If it goes if it goes one way but not the other, then that's just messed up.
Right. So that's why I
Hmm.
that's why I liked the dialogue that was in the beginning section of it. Like after I had to go back and read it on a transcript, I just felt the dialogue, um, like the way that the NPCs were reacting to what you were saying was done poorly. If that would have been handled better, either with not having them react or giving us a warning that they would, I think I would have been completely fine with this section.
Yeah. I will say though that this problem seems pretty par for the course in the Sliske series, and but he is very overambitious, and that really shone through these quests. Like it, he tried to do a lot more than he could, and that's why we got a lot of decidedly meh.
Yeah, I just don't think decidedly meh is good for a quest series.
It's not, but I'm trying to say that Endgame is on the all right side of meh, and not the bad side of meh.
Eh,
Eh,
eh.
eh. Um,
So do you have anything else on Endgame? Did you want to talk about the jazz stuff?
Jas, yeah, that well, not really, because he hit all the points on that. It was a pretty good point. It was a pretty good part of the quest. Zeros got his ass kicked just like I said he would, and you know how much I like being right. So that's that. But seriously, like I think out of all things in this quest, they really nailed Jas.
Yeah, like I said, this was probably the best part of the quest for me. Was this last bit. The only part I did not
They
like was the
understood.
random introduction of, "Oh hey, by the way, I was Sliske's master." I felt that was bad payoff, just because it didn't really make sense of why did Jas need Sliske and why is Sliske doing these things. I didn't feel that made much sense.
That might be something that makes more sense with time, because I
That's
feel like
that's
that.
true, and that's why I'm holding out that hopefully this section isn't complete garbage because of that. But past that, it was good. It was good dialogue with Jess. They did nail her character fairly well.
Yes. And it was very interesting to find out that she was making these beings just so they can say one word and then destroying them,
Yeah,
just so that she can communicate with us.
And also just rubbing it in Cerus's face.
Yes, just rubbing it in his face. Also, it came out with the greatest hardcore Iron Man death notice ever. So yeah, I think that's all the quests.
Yeah, I think we've gone through both of them.
Um,
So you guys can tell us what you think in the comments below. Which do you like better, Children of Ma or Sliske's Endgame? Feel free to let us know how you feel about the two of them. Past that, I think this is the end.
I think so.
All right. We'll
Um,
see you guys next time. Remember to check out our channel if you want more content. And I've been Crondis, and that's been Lime.
Bye.
See you guys.